think we're live. The next episode of Let's Talk Lore with yours truly, Spencer Krause, a.k.a. Dungeon Doomhand, and my dear friend Chris, a.k.a. Zen
Flavor. Or just Chris. I'm okay with just Chris.
Or just Chris.
Stag.
Well, yeah, actually,
Rena.
My good friend Stag.
Lone Star. My heart goes out to Wilbur.
We almost had another death last time, so you'll have to come up with new names. But as I was asking you earlier today what you wanted to talk about, you came up with some good topics. And one of them, and I'm very interested to start this one off first this time. Instead of doing the lore talk first, that'll be the second portion of the show.
Okay.
I'd love to talk about what you had brought up, which was the role play and player engagement. What did you want to ask about? What did you want to talk about?
So first, I wanted to tell you something that I took from you when I DM'd. I gotta move something. When I DM'd Dragon of Icespire Peak recently, and it's the way that you engage the players in the story. You'll start telling the story and you'll describe how one of our players would be interacting with something. And it always feels like it's an invitation to jump in and continue that explanation or take over the storytelling as that, like, from your lead. And that's something that I use, depending on who might be feeling, or like in the group that I use it with was our in-person group. So it's like feeling who might not have been talking recently, or someone that you want to engage in a certain scene. The way that you've done that, of interweaving that with the story, with the description of the room. Yeah, it feels like a video game where it's zoomed down and slowly zooms into a character walking, and then you slowly start walking and the character takes over.
Gotta say, some of it is not intentional. So, I mean, first off, thank you. But I've been doing some reading about player engagement. Not necessarily reading, but just like, I guess research and stuff. So I'm assuming what you're referring to when you say get the player in the story is what exactly, like the character's backstory, or have them
people engaging in the role play and the storytelling in like the actual moment, the way that you engage each of us in the story.
So certain people have their own way. So some people don't like the role play. Some people like to role play, but just use their own voice. I myself, I like to go to my stereotypical Scottish, or English accent with the dwarves. I'm working on the accents. Not gonna lie, not everyone is a dwarf from Lord of the Rings, but for the most part, they have been. And it's funny. It's funny when I try to change the voice, it slowly regresses back to the dwarf. It's so funny, especially even that time dragon we talked about with the cup. I think at certain points last episode, I just whipped out my English accent. I was like, damn, that's not what I meant to do. And then I grabbed the cup. I was like, but I guess so. When it comes to player engagement, so I was reading and did some research on it, and there's different ways that people like to play the game. There's different ways that people like the role play. So when we set this up, I wanted to have the characters immediately involved in the story. That's why when the characters had their background stories, I added just a little piece to it, so that they could feel all together. So everyone had their dreams and whatever, and so on and so forth. So they felt like they could talk among the group about their dreams if they wanted to. Certain characters said, certain players said, my characters wouldn't necessarily tell the people that they're with their dreams, but eventually, as that Artemisian and certainly the Trivium portion of the story unfolded, I think you guys sort of someone would Sprock, aka Jake, doesn't roleplay as much. So hearing him communicate to you guys that he had a dream about a blue skull, and he's having like these weird blue skull powered feelings because it's all about the mind, was interesting to me because I felt like I hit a not necessarily a home run, maybe a double. But yeah, so like when you guys go into rooms and stuff, I was trying to figure out, or interacting with people, I was trying to throw in, I have these like books that have random encounters and stuff, but like, can we make a random encounter out of from your backgrounds? So I try to, like, particularly with Jake in this Underdark realm, like, can I get him to break through that role play into talking about his like dead father? I almost had it last time too, you know?
It's hard when he communicates mainly telepathically.
Oh yeah. Well, with him, like his player engagement, he's tough player to role play. I mean, it's a slow game. We're still.
I will give Jake credit for the best role play I have been in the pleasure of being at the same game with. When he randomly busted out that brains for the entire session.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. All he said was just brains.
Some people need help to get in there, and I felt like the best way to help, maybe he didn't need my help, maybe I'm overstepping my boundaries, but I decided that, you know what? Maybe Jake needs to get a Ceramorph tadpole in his eyeball, and you know, I'll force that engagement.
A nat 20 and still a fail. Ceramorph in the eyeball.
Yeah, well, the pass was a 25, but a 20, he got like a 23. That was hilarious. All that planning for that dungeon and 2 scenarios would have gone down the drain, but don't worry. Yeah, player engagement. I feel like sometimes, and I did this last time, as the DM, I don't necessarily need to describe every room. I don't need to describe the smell, the taste, like, so I've been doing that more over the last couple sessions, and I felt like, or when you guys would walk into a room, instead of saying, oh, it's dark and it smells like, you know, the iron in the air from all the blood and all that stuff, I had you guys walk in and I was like, hey, Aranis, like, what do you smell? You know, remember that? It was like, I smell mold, and I smell like stale air or whatever. And I try to like weave that into the actual room. So instead of having like decaying carcass there, well, it's a carcass that's certainly decaying, but there happens to be mold and crap all over. You know, make the player feel like he's described the room, and
he's discovering something.
And he did. He described that room.
I love that when you started doing that. I was like, oh, that's beautiful. It's world building, but on a micro scale.
Yeah, but it takes like a lot of pressure off of me too, because like I don't have to like always. I happen to enjoy the randomness of the role plays, and I'll get to something in a second that you did last time that broke open the door for me. As a dungeon master, I always have an issue sometimes, like, you know, I get these great books, like the game master's books. I have all his stuff. These guys are amazing, and I'll drop the link later on in a highlight reel. But these books are absolutely amazing. But like, sometimes I don't want to like stop the action and look up a book, or I don't. Maybe I have the non-player character stuff ready, but I don't have the other tables ready, and so on and so forth. So I love when the characters throw it back at the DM. So like when we were in the Brock Kingdom, it almost like broke open my whole framework in which I do the DMing, which was when you guys walked through a portal to a random kingdom, and the portal had a title on it, the Death House. So you guys were like, where's the Death House? And you went over to the first person you saw, or you and Aranis rather, and you were like, where's the Death House? And the guy said something like, I don't know, or whatever. And you were like, well, thank you. And he pointed you towards like a bar where there's more people that I wanted you guys to go over and interact with the village and stuff. And then you turned around to him and you said, well, who are we going to go see? And so I had to randomly come up with a name. And then you said, and when we get there, who shall I say sent us? And I believe I was like, oh my God, where's my table? And so I was just like, you know what? Old Man Staff sounds like a good name. And you started laughing. And so I feel like that once you knocked on that door and I opened it, every single NPC for that entire session, and pretty much for the next session too, you asked him his name, where he's, and that's the type of like easy role play interaction, because it's very easy. You just ask questions. Mm-hmm. It's very, very fun and hilarious, and especially when you're like me and you're not quick with like, I can throw lore at you like, okay, the Oracle thing that I did. I had a certain sense of it, but I didn't know you guys were going to eat his brain and like have a whole backstory. Again, going back to Jake or Sprock. Sprock is Jake's character that he plays, so they're two in the same, or one in the same. Jake goes over and eats every bad guy's brain, and I give him a flashback of where they were. All that stuff is randomly made up and putting the DM on the spot. It's absolutely great. That's how I feel like
how a lot of story was created.
Yeah, and then he gets to telepathically communicate that to his friends. It's really, really quite cool. But like, I don't know. And I also like today, I just so happened to like scroll through other DMs. I'm trying to like find a way to connect with them on Instagram and the other social media. And one of the things I came across was like problem players. Like, how do you deal with problem players? That type of thing.
Yeah.
And in our group, I don't necessarily think that we have. I just know our group, and I feel like a problem DM. I just can't. But like, I want to break the game. Like, I don't think we have that issue. But if we did, have you ever come across like an issue with a problem player? You've had many more one-offs and games than I have. So I'm fairly limited in that.
So normally, or my experience, and the reason why I think our groups worked so well is we were friends before we started playing.
True.
Yeah, and the in-person group, it was very much like we became friends really quickly once we started playing, and it just sort of meshed. But they're in the West March game, you see a bunch. It's completely random. I'll probably play with 100-some people or so, and occasionally there are, like in that game, tracking XP and doing everything. Some people who cheat, people who are like rude or talk over everyone, or try and make every single session about them.
I feel like that's a person problem, not a player. There's a line between like a player character and then there's like the person problem.
Well, it's just finding the right group of friends, and I think that's the bigger thing versus finding people to play with. Finding a group of friends and then playing games with them, not just trying to find a game to play.
Like Matt's not Reno. Reno is one of Matt's characters, the Warlock. Melrin. I thought, Matt likes to kill the NPCs. He slowly learned that they have some information. NPCs have information. Now, I don't mind.
NPCs have value too.
I've gotten to the point where I plan a whole NPC thing and he gets killed. Well, guess what? I'm going to throw something. One of the ways that I've gone around, as a DM, there's problem players, there's the issues that are separate from player to player problems. As a DM, you spend all your time like planning these encounters and hopefully you have a role play and build a certain thing, and you don't. Other ways is that, like you said, the characters kind of compete or whatever it is for their time.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I said on this group chat that they had about problem players is sometimes players just that's the way the person is. The person just wants to break the game, and I think that sometimes you have to give that person a little opportunity to do that. Now, it doesn't mean that like you have to sit there with like a jerk Like, no one wants to play with a jerk. And so I said, what you need to do, if you have a jerk and you want to keep the role play going, have a random demon show up and have them debate about who is going to be sacrificed out of the group, out of like the players, and let the players determine that. Let the player, like, have a judge come out. And I said, I told the thread, I was like, have a guy named Bruno, who I just made up, who happens to be a dark demon, show up and overpower the heroes and tell them that they have to debate and come up with who they want to sacrifice this game. And, you know, it'd probably be the player, the problem character, you know, and tell them why. You know, don't just take him off table into the hallway and say, listen, man, you can't play that, because that's not nice. But have the whole group say, Hitler, you're ruining the game. And the reason why you're ruining the game is because you always have your character do this. And kill him.
Well, and the thing of doing it that way is it puts it back to the character of, like, I know that you as a person may not be a complete jackass, but the way your character is playing, my character doesn't want to be around your character.
It's tough.
Like, you're killing all the NPCs we try and interrogate and get information from.
Yeah.
But you just go kill people all on your own.
I guess it all goes back to, like, the role play and interaction stuff. I think that it's very important to know who the people are that you're playing. One of the questions that I asked every now and then is, like, I asked you guys all to give me your top video game character, your top novel. I know my guys enough to know that certain people don't play video games. So when I say what's your favorite video game character, you're probably going to give me a Mario. That happens to be my favorite video game character. You know, I know that he reads a book. So what's your favorite? You know, and then you kind of see what those characters, the players, like. And you can sort of weave a little bit of that in there. So with Matt in particular, that one character he had, I felt like he was set on breaking the game a little bit. So what I gave him was the perfect opportunity. Like so you guys all went to, maybe this was Act 4 underneath Centaura. You guys found those 3 portals. And it just so happened that Lone Star pulled the card. Oh, he pulled the demon card from the.
No, that was Lone Star. Pulled the demon card.
You guys went off to the
Pandemonium.
You guys went off to, like, fight the demon, and it was because it was time. He was overwhelming. I told you every session he would get more and more powerful until you just had to face him. And Matt wanted to break the game with his character. This is now Matt's the wizard, and I was like, all right, well, you go. He wanted to go to a different portal, and he went to the future or the past, depending on what it was. And he started just doing the typical move, just annihilating all the NPCs. So he walked into a room. I had him walk into a room where there was one lonely NPC, and he happened to have the dwarf accent that I love, and he had a time machine, and boom, he killed him. And then he didn't know how to get out of there. And then I had the time machine, shoot out another one of them, and it turned out to be that guy's son or that guy's father or whatever. It went over
or
and over
the
and
different.
over.
Oh no, weren't they him? There's something about like.
There was alternate realities, and it was like a time. It was a time space thing. So his future self came back and said, "Whoa! You can't kill me again, because I'm coming back to tell you that you shouldn't have killed this guy." Then he offed him again. But sometimes people I think he liked that. And then obviously he met his sage that his character is connected with, which was the dark beholder, and he had no idea how to handle that. So then he ran away. But that's like doing stuff like that. I feel like gives, and he's all on his own. He's isolated from the group, so he learned.
He understands the level of risk that he's willing to take.
You learn that you need to rely on other people, so maybe you don't need to blast the guys out. You can slowly.
I mean, that's a really good point. Yeah, if someone's hell bent on just killing everything, being like, yeah, okay, so you get separated from the group, and then you somehow come upon a malevolent creature that doesn't really feel like killing you, but that if you try and attack him, he will destroy you.
For sure. But when it comes to like that, the role play engagement, and we'll come back to this. Definitely on another lore talk. It's so fun. It's so fun. I think that knowing the players is huge, and with our group, because we were friends before, it's a little bit easier to know your play styles. But even if you don't, I feel like that's something that needs to be discussed, not necessarily at a session 0, but maybe in a individual group chat. When I text you guys, what's your favorite video, what's your favorite movie, what's your sci-fi, do you like fantasy, whatever I asked you guys. Do you like Lord of the Rings? Okay, what's your favorite episode? Because if you tell me Battle of the Bastards, I love that episode too, but I also like, the one where they climb the wall. And if you like the one that you climb the wall, you probably want to do a little more wall climbing.
You want to tie some ropes.
You might want to have a little bit more of a story. So it's knowing your characters is huge, but also like being as a DM, relying on the players to world build with you is like probably the best thing that we've.
That's something that I realized like probably 15, 20 sessions in. I was like, well, yeah, I can world build too.
Oh, yeah.
I can make up random shit. And just so you know, that was my entire goal with Lone Star, is to world build the shit out of your world.
So viewers that don't know, and sadly, I don't think that there's documentation of it. You'll just have to wait for Act 3 and Act 4 to post on Instagram. I'll tell the story, I promise on that. But he pulled the demon card, and I didn't know what the demon card was. I didn't like. I wanted the deck of many things to just be like completely random for everyone, including myself. So I did not. I did read like 1 or 2 of them, which was like 50,000 XP right then and there. But like I knew that one killed you, or there was like a void one or something. But the rest of them, I said, okay, I'm gonna leave it and have it be a complete surprise, because I shouldn't have time to prepare for that. And Chris, aka Lone Star, pulls the demon card, and we decided that the demon would not face him right there, but slowly work his way into his mind and like cause him to like fail saves and punch his friends and so on and so forth, until he realized that he was possessed, sort of. And that whole entire episode, there were about 3 episodes that it really involved in the storyline, in the main storyline of the whole campaign, was just because you pulled a card, which was amazing. I thought that was absolutely amazing.
Well, it kept getting worse and worse, and everyone else, like, you would text me, you're gonna fail to save, or you're gonna text me, the demon, they're like, make this roll. Oh, the demon's gonna make you do this. It was like random shit that I normally wouldn't do in combat. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna punch my friend in the face after I healed him and knock him out again.
I'll drop when we come to it again, viewers. I'll drop all the demon stats and how we played it. It was really cool. It was like every next session, I would, as a DM, I would control a little bit. I wouldn't control, but I would alter the roles a little bit. Or I would say, okay, Chris, like, it's been 5 sessions now, or 10 sessions now. I think you're going to have to, like, just randomly knock one of your guys prone as much as you can. And, like, but it was funny. It was funny when that happened. The other players didn't connect the dots that was happening. So with that perspective, I might have failed the setup of the encounter.
No. Dude, I think it was the dynamic of the way that came out is because I kept it so hidden, and
it was good.
Aranis and Sprock like trusted him for some odd reason, and it was Melrin. I think it was still Melrin at the time. Maybe not. Maybe it was one of his other characters. He was there, and he was the one. I think it was Melrin. He was the one that didn't trust me after I knocked
Yes.
someone out. And he
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to kill you. I'm like, I don't remember what just happened.
Yes, I remember that.
And then
that's
when and then everyone's like, all right,
whoa.
we need to have a huddle here.
And they're like, we need to have a huddle. Chris, you go over there and investigate the corner of the room over there. We're going to have a quick huddle over here with you.
And then they're like, okay, let's go kill this demon because we can't have you doing this shit again.
So I think the takeaway from role play, and you add something, if it's a two-way street. So DMs don't have to try to force. Yes, you go into a bar and the bar is crowded. I haven't named everyone. I'll tell you right now, I got a full-time job. Even if I didn't have a full-time job, I wouldn't have time to name everyone and come with backstories and stuff. It's fun to do it on the fly, but you should have a general structure. And then players, just throw the DM random. It makes the DM feel like they're more of a player when they get thrown in. Like, I say, you walk into a room, I say, Chris or Lone Star, tell me what the room smells like. You throw it right back at me when you go over to an NPC and say, where are you from?
Yeah.
What do you do for your time off, sir? Like, why are you so, like in Brockville where everyone just happened to be an old, gross man? Like, where are the chicks? Like, that was a question never asked, by the way, till the very end, I thought. Turns out they were some sort of succubus type, but inverse succubus. Well, we're definitely going to circle back to the Brock area because how Lone Star handled that Brock area is one of my happier moments. Oh yeah,
in any D&D game.
Speaking of the Brock, that episode is being dropped on Sunday. So
if you're watching this, it's great. It's glorious.
You can see the full. What I'm talking about. The two-way street with roleplay and encounters with DMs. Watch on Sunday. It's long, just cut through until we're role playing. It's hilarious. It's particularly the bar area, and also you fight a shadow creature, but just skip the shadow creature part and get to the town square. That's hilarious. I have such bad names for people.
One other thing I'll add is for player engagement. It's like what you said, getting to know your players as a DM. If you're wanting to engage them, know their hobbies, their interests, what they like. Like, I know you love Zelda, so like Zelda type puzzles would draw you right in.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a great
and not everything has
benefit that you did.
When it comes to that type of thing, not everything has to be random. So like when I had the 6 skulls, and I was like, well, Chris is sort of like this, yoga guru down in Florida. Like, I feel like he has quite a green skull vibe to him, more so than Jake, who I think enjoys the mind stuff, And I know Matt likes the reality thing, even though I don't think he knows what his skull does yet. But
nope,
we'll figure that out. I think that concludes our first discussion of role play and player engagement and lore talk. Yeah. A brief pause, and I think we'll move on to our next topic, which I'm very excited to hear.
Where I want to take this?
That. Yes.
Okay. Well,
we'll be back in 2 minutes, maybe 3